The emergency lights flashed red across the Galactic Council chamber. Admiral Kethvar's four arms moved quickly over his control panel as he pulled up the latest battle reports. The numbers were bad. Very bad. 17 more worlds have gone silent, he announced to the gathered representatives. The Zephyrian Empire has destroyed every defense fleet we sent against them. Council member Altara, whose blue skin seemed paler than usual, shook her head slowly. How many ships have we lost now? 3,412 vessels, Admiral Kethvar replied, including the entire 5th Defense Fleet at Rigel Prime. The chamber fell silent. Every species represented in the council had contributed ships to stop the Zephyrian advance. The results were always the same. Complete destruction. Far from the council chambers, Commander Minjun Park stood on the bridge of the Earth Defense Station orbiting Neptune. His dark eyes studied the incoming messages with growing concern. The alien war that everyone said would never reach human space was getting closer every day. Sir, Lieutenant Song called from her station. We're receiving distress signals from the Kepler colonies. Multiple ships, requesting immediate evacuation assistance. Minjun frowned. The Kepler system was only 3 jumps from Earth. How many ships are asking for help? Like 70 22s. 47 colony transports. They're reporting unknown alien vessels approaching their positions. Before Minjun could respond, the signals stopped. All of them. 47 ships, carrying nearly 200,000 human colonists, had just gone silent. Get me Captain Lee on the Blackstar, Minjun ordered quietly. 3 hours away, Captain Lee So-young was already studying the same reports. The USS Blackstar floated in the darkness between star systems, its black hull almost invisible against space. The ship was old by human standards, built during the early years when Earth's government believed aliens might be hostile. Most other human ships were designed for exploration and trade. The Blackstar was built for war. Captain, her tactical officer Lieutenant Park Minho said, the distress signals from Kepler have stopped completely. I noticed. Lee's voice was calm, but her hands gripped the armrests of her command chair tighter. How long would it take us to reach the Kepler system? Chief Engineer Song Hae-jin looked up from her station. If we push the quantum drives to maximum, maybe 6 hours. Do it. Ma'am, we're supposed to maintain our patrol route, Park Min-ho reminded her. Headquarters will want to know why we abandoned our position. Lee stood and walked to the main view screen. The stars looked peaceful, but she knew that somewhere out there, an alien fleet was murdering human civilians. Tell headquarters that we're investigating a potential threat to Earth colonies. If they don't like it, they can court-martial me later. In the Zephyrian fleet, War Admiral Vex-Tar examined the debris field where the human colony ships had been. His warriors had destroyed the primitive vessels easily. Too easily, perhaps. There had been no challenge, no honor in the victory. War Admiral, his communications officer reported, our scouts have identified the location of the human homeworld, the planet they call Earth. Vex-Tar's reptilian features showed amusement. How many defense vessels orbit this Earth? Approximately 300 ships, sir. Our intelligence suggests their technology is at least 50 years behind galactic standard. IDR, 300 ships. Vex-Tar clicked his claws together thoughtfully. Hardly worth our attention. We will destroy them quickly and move on to more challenging conquests. The War Admiral did not know that his fleet was being watched. Hidden among the asteroids at the edge of the system, a single human ship monitored every Zephyrian transmission. The USS Blackstar had arrived too late to save the colonists, but Captain Lee had seen enough. How many ships? She asked Lieutenant Park. 47 vessels, including 3 dreadnoughts. Each dreadnought is roughly the size of a human city. And they killed 200,000 civilians for practice. Lee's voice was ice cold. Song. What's our weapon status? Chief Engineer Song checked her displays. All systems operational. Captain. The modifications we made last month are ready for testing. The modifications had been Song's idea. The Blackstar's original mining equipment had been reworked into something else entirely. Magnetic accelerators designed to move asteroids now fired tungsten projectiles at incredible speeds. Nuclear charges meant for breaking up space rocks had been turned into proximity weapons. The ship's overpowered reactor could push these weapons far beyond their design limits. Captain, Park Min-ho said carefully, there are 47 enemy ships. We're just one vessel. Yes, Lee replied, but they've never fought humans before. She activated the ship's communication system and broadcast on all frequencies. This is Captain Lee, So Young, of the United Earth ship Blackstar. You have attacked human civilians and destroyed colony vessels. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. On the Zephyrian flagship, the bridge crew burst into laughter. War Admiral Vex Tar studied the single human ship on his screens. It was larger than the colony transports they had destroyed, but still tiny compared to his fleet. Captain Zorak, he said to one of his frigate commanders, destroy this annoying insect. The rest of the fleet will continue our mission. Captain Zorak was eager to prove himself. His frigate was one of the newest in the Zephyrian fleet, armed with the latest plasma weapons and protected by energy shields that could stop any known projectile weapon. With pleasure, War Admiral, Zorak replied, turning his ship toward the lone human vessel. The frigate accelerated toward the Blackstar, its weapons charging and shields at maximum power. Zorak expected the human ship to run, or at least try to avoid his attack. Instead, the Blackstar did something no alien captain would ever consider. It charged straight at him. What are they doing? Zorak demanded. Are they trying to ram us? On the Blackstar's bridge, Lieutenant Commander Kim Jae-hwan powered up the magnetic accelerators. Railguns ready, Captain. Tungsten loads prepared. Fire when ready. Lee ordered, calmly. The Blackstar's railguns launched their projectiles at 15% the speed of light. The tungsten rods were invisible on Zephyrian sensors, designed as they were to detect energy weapons and conventional explosives. Zorak's shields, calibrated to deflect plasma bolts and particle beams, were useless against solid matter traveling at relativistic speeds. The tungsten projectiles passed through his ship like bullets through paper. The frigate's hull split open, atmosphere rushing out through dozens of holes. Emergency systems failed as the projectiles tore through critical systems. In less than 10 seconds, the Zephyrian frigate was dead. War Admiral Vex Tar stared at his screens in disbelief. One moment, Captain Zorak was reporting his attack run. The next moment, his ship was a drifting wreck. What happened? Vex Tar demanded. What kind of weapon was that? None of his officers could answer. They had never seen anything like it. On the Blackstar, Captain Lee watched the alien frigate tumble helplessly through space. Her crew was silent, shocked by how easily they had destroyed an enemy vessel. Captain, Park Min-ho said quietly, they're moving the entire fleet against us. Lee nodded. She had expected this. All hands. Prepare for battle. This is what we trained for. The crew of the USS Blackstar began final preparations for a fight they knew they probably couldn't win. But as Captain Lee had told her officers many times during training, winning wasn't always the point. Sometimes, the point was to make the enemy pay such a high price that they would think twice before attacking humans again. The Zephyrian fleet began to surround the single human ship. War Admiral Vex Tar intended to capture some of the crew alive to learn about their weapons. He had no idea that he was about to face something the galaxy had never seen before. A species that had learned warfare on a world where everything tried to kill you. The Zephyrian fleet spread out in a perfect circle around the USS Blackstar. War Admiral Vex Tar had used this formation to destroy hundreds of enemy fleets across the galaxy. Energy shields overlapped to create an unbreakable wall. Plasma cannons charged in synchronized patterns, to focus maximum firepower on any target. Human, vessel. Vextar transmitted. You have destroyed one of our ships with some kind of trick weapon. Surrender now, and tell us how your weapons work. We might let some of your crew live. Weapon. 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 On the Blackstar's bridge, Captain Lee studied the alien formation surrounding her ship. Lieutenant Park Min-ho was counting enemy vessels and calculating firing solutions. Chief Engineer Song Hae-jin was monitoring the ship's modified systems. 46 ships left, Park reported. They're arranging themselves in standard galactic battle formation. Energy shields at maximum. Weapons charging for coordinated fire. How long until they're ready to attack? Lee asked. Maybe 3 minutes, Captain. Lee smiled grimly. 3 minutes was more time than she needed. Song. What's our engine status? Quantum fusion reactors at 90%. The drives can handle acceleration up to 12 Gs before we risk containment failure. 12 Gs? Park looked worried. Captain? Most of the crew can't survive that kind of acceleration. Most alien crews can't either, Lee replied. That's the point. All hands. Prepare for high G maneuvers. Secure all stations and engage pressure suits. Throughout the ship, 800 crew members strapped themselves into acceleration chairs and activated their protective suits. The Blackstar had been designed, assuming that combat would be brutal and dangerous. Every human aboard was trained to fight in conditions that would kill most other species. Captain, Communications Officer, Yang Min-jun called out. I'm picking up alien transmissions. They're sharing tactical data and preparing for a coordinated strike. Let them coordinate, Lee said. Song, bring us about. Head for that asteroid field at bearing 270. The asteroid field? Park questioned. Captain, that will limit our maneuvering room. It will limit theirs more. The Blackstar suddenly accelerated toward a dense field of space rocks. The ship's quantum drives pushed out incredible amounts of energy, allowing for acceleration patterns that stressed both ship and crew to their limits. War Admiral Vextar watched in confusion as the human ship fled toward the asteroids. They're trying to hide among the rocks, he told his fleet commanders. Follow them in. We'll crush them against the asteroids. Captain Meltar of the heavy cruiser Void Ripper was first to pursue. War Admiral, should we maintain formation? No need, Vextar replied. They're trapped now. Hunt them down. The Zephyrian ships broke formation and followed the Blackstar into the asteroid field. It was exactly what Captain Lee had hoped for. They're coming in after us, Park reported. 7 ships in pursuit, with more following. Perfect. Song, prepare the mining charges. In the Blackstar's cargo holds, robotic systems armed nuclear devices that had been modified from asteroid-breaking equipment. The charges were designed to fracture space rocks, but Chief Engineer Song had made some improvements. Each device now contained proximity sensors and could be programmed to detonate when enemy ships came within range. Charges ready, Captain, Song reported. Drop them at random intervals along our path. Make it look like we're trying to block pursuit. The Blackstar weaved between massive asteroids, leaving a trail of invisible nuclear mines behind it. The Zephyrian ships followed eagerly, their captains confident that they had the primitive human vessel trapped. Captain Meltar's cruiser was the first to hit a mine. The nuclear explosion tore through his ship's energy shields, as if they weren't there. Atomic fire consumed the Void Ripper's hull, turning the massive warship into expanding gas and debris in seconds. What was that? War Admiral Vextar demanded as another ship disappeared from his sensors. Unknown weapon type, his sensor operator reported. The humans appear to be using some kind of nuclear device. Nuclear weapons? Vextar was confused. Most species had abandoned nuclear weapons centuries ago in favor of cleaner, energy-based systems. They're using primitive atomic bombs? A third Zephyrian ship struck a mine and vanished in atomic fire. Then a fourth. The alien pursuit slowed, as captains began to worry about what other surprises the humans might have prepared. "All ships, fall back to safe distance," Vextar ordered. "We'll force them out with long-range fire." But Captain Lee had no intention of staying hidden among the asteroids. The Blackstar emerged from the far side of the field, moving at maximum velocity toward a group of surprised Zephyrian destroyers. "Target the lead destroyer," Lee commanded. "All railguns. Continuous fire." The Blackstar's magnetic accelerators began launching tungsten projectiles as fast as they could cycle. The alien destroyers tried to raise their shields, but the railgun rounds tore through energy barriers designed to stop plasma bolts. Lieutenant Commander Kim Jae-hwan coordinated the weapons fire with deadly precision. Each tungsten rod punched through alien hulls, causing explosive decompression and system failures. 3 destroyers died in the first minute of combat. "How are they penetrating our shields?" demanded Captain Euro K of the destroyer Nightblade. His question was answered when a railgun round tore through his bridge, killing him and half his crew instantly. War Admiral Vextar realized that he was facing something completely unexpected. The human ship fought like no other vessel he had ever encountered. It used tactics that violated every rule of civilized galactic warfare. "They're using kinetic weapons at relativistic speeds," his tactical officer reported. "Our shields can't stop solid projectiles moving that fast." "What about their own shields?" Vextar asked. "They don't appear to have energy shields at all, sir. Their hull seems to be heavily armored, but they're relying on speed and maneuverability for defense." This was another shock. Every advanced species used energy shields. The idea of relying on metal armor and evasive tactics was considered primitive. But as Vextar watched another of his ships die, he began to understand that primitive didn't mean ineffective. The Blackstar continued its attack run, moving between asteroids with impossible precision. Chief Engineer Song had rerouted power from life support and crew comfort systems to engines and weapons. The ship could maintain maximum performance far longer than any alien vessel. "Captain," Park Min-ho called out, "enemy reinforcements approaching. I count 20 additional ships dropping out of hyperspace." Lee checked her tactical display. 29 enemy ships remaining. From the original fleet, plus 20 newcomers. 49 ships against 1. "Song, how are our ammunition reserves?" 60% remaining on tungsten rounds. Nuclear mines down to 40%. "And our reactor status?" "Running hot, but stable. We can maintain current power levels for another 2 hours." Lee nodded. 2 hours would have to be enough. "All hands, prepare for extended combat operations. We're going to make these aliens pay for every human life they took." The reinforcement fleet spread out to surround the asteroid field, while the surviving ships from the original group tried to coordinate their attacks. War Admiral Vextar was beginning to realize that he might have underestimated these humans. "Sir," his communications officer reported, "Captain Zur Gak is requesting permission to withdraw his damaged ships for repairs." "Denied," Vextar replied. "No ship leaves until that human vessel is destroyed." But even as he said it, Vextar wondered if he had enough ships to accomplish the task. The humans were fighting with a desperation and ruthlessness that he had never encountered before. They seemed willing to accept any risk and pay any price to inflict damage on their enemies. On the Blackstar, Captain Lee studied the enemy positions and began planning her next attack. The aliens expected her to hide among the asteroids and fight a defensive battle. Instead, she intended to do something that no rational commander would consider. She was going to attack all 49 ships at once. "All hands," she announced over the ship's communication system. "This is the captain. We're outnumbered 50 to 1. The enemy thinks this gives them an advantage. They're about to learn why that's a mistake. Prepare for maximum effort." The crew of the USS Blackstar prepared for a battle that would be remembered across the galaxy for centuries to come. War Admiral Vextar arranged his 49 ships in a hunting formation that had never failed him before. The formation was designed to trap enemy vessels between overlapping fields of fire while maintaining defensive positions for each ship. "Human captain," he broadcast on all frequencies, "you have fought well, but this ends now. Surrender, and we will grant you a warrior's death." Captain Lee's response came immediately. "This is Captain Lee So Young. We don't surrender. We adapt." On the Blackstar's bridge, Lieutenant Park Min-ho studied the enemy formation with growing concern. "Captain, they've positioned themselves to cover every possible escape route. If we try to run, they'll catch us in crossfire from multiple directions." "Who said anything about running?" Lee replied calmly. She turned to Chief Engineer Song Hee-jin. "Song, I need you to do something that's going to sound completely crazy." "More crazy than fighting 50 alien warships with one ship?" Song asked. "Much more crazy. I want you to overload the quantum fusion reactors." The bridge fell silent. Overloading the reactors would create a massive explosion that would destroy everything within several thousand kilometers, including the Blackstar itself. "Captain," Song said carefully, "if we overload the reactors, we won't survive the explosion. Maybe, maybe not. Run the calculations. If we create a controlled cascade failure, can we direct the energy release?" Song's fingers flew over her control panel, running complex engineering calculations. The quantum fusion reactors that powered the Blackstar were more advanced than anything most alien species used. They were also far more dangerous. "It's possible," Song said slowly. "If I reroute the reactor containment fields and create a staged failure sequence, I might be able to create a directed energy pulse instead of an omnidirectional explosion." "Might?" Park asked. "There's about a 60% chance it will work as planned. A 30% chance we'll just blow up normally. And a 10% chance we create a space-time distortion that tears apart everything in the system." Lee considered the odds. "What's the effective range of the directed pulse? If it works, everything within 1 light minute gets hit with lethal radiation and electromagnetic interference. Alien ships will lose power, life support, and weapons. They'll be dead in space. And us? The ship's radiation shielding might protect us if we're in the center of the pulse. Or it might not. I've never tried anything like this before." Lee looked around the bridge at her crew. 800 people were depending on her decision. Behind them, Earth and all its colonies were depending on what happened here. "Do it," she ordered. "Captain," Communications Officer Yang Min-jun interrupted. "I'm receiving a transmission from the enemy flagship. They're demanding our surrender again. Tell them we're considering their offer. Buy us some time." While Yang transmitted delaying messages to the Zephyrian fleet, Song began the delicate process of modifying the reactor containment systems. The work required precise adjustments to magnetic fields that normally contained forces hot enough to power a small star. "This is insane," Lieutenant Commander Kim Jae-hwan muttered as he helped Song with the modifications. "We're basically turning our ship into a bomb." "A very big bomb," Song agreed. "But if it works, we take them all with us." War Admiral Vex Tar was growing impatient with the human delays. "They're stalling for time," he told his fleet commanders. "Prepare to attack. All ships. Maximum firepower." "Sir," his sensor operator called out. "I'm detecting unusual energy readings from the human vessel. Their power output is increasing rapidly." "Weapons charging?" "No, sir. It appears to be coming from their engines. Power levels are rising beyond anything we've seen before." "Logar." "Oh. Logar." Vex Tar frowned. "Are they trying to escape?" On the Blackstar, alarms were sounding throughout the ship as the quantum reactors strained against their modified containment fields. The energy buildup was approaching critical levels. "All hands, prepare for emergency conditions," Captain Lee announced. "Secure all stations and brace for impact." "Captain," Song called out. "I'm reading cascade formation in Reactor 3. The process has started. We have approximately 2 minutes before total containment failure. Can you still control the direction of the energy release? I think so. The magnetic field generators are holding, but they won't last long under this kind of stress. Park Min-ho was monitoring the alien fleet. Enemy ships are beginning their attack run. They'll be in weapons range in 90 seconds. Perfect timing, Lee said grimly. Yang, send one final message to the alien commander. What should I tell them, Captain? Tell them that humans learned warfare on a world that tried to kill us every single day. Tell them we're very good at making sure our enemies don't survive either. The message was transmitted just as the first Zephyrian plasma bolts struck the Blackstar's armored hull. The alien weapons scorched and melted sections of the ship's outer armor, but the vessel continued accelerating toward the center of the enemy formation. They're not trying to escape, Vextar realized suddenly. They're attacking us directly. All ships, concentrate fire on that vessel. 49 alien warships turned their weapons on the single human ship. Plasma cannons, particle beams, and exotic energy weapons poured devastating fire into the Blackstar. Sections of the hull began to fail under the incredible bombardment. But the ship continued its charge. Hull breaches on decks 7 through 12, Park reported. We're losing atmosphere in multiple sections. Emergency bulkheads are sealing the breaches, Song added. But I don't know how long they'll hold. Reactor containment is at critical levels. 30 seconds to cascade failure, Lee announced. All hands, brace for impact. The Zephyrian fleet realized too late what the humans were planning. As the Blackstar reached the center of their formation, its quantum reactors finally lost containment. The explosion that followed was unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. Instead of a simple nuclear blast, the modified reactors created a cascade of quantum energy that tore through space itself. The energy pulse expanded outward at the speed of light, carrying lethal radiation and electromagnetic interference. Zephyrian ships caught in the pulse lost power instantly. Their energy shields collapsed, their weapons went offline, and their life support systems failed. Crews died from radiation poisoning within minutes. Ships designed to fight for days without resupply became helpless hulks drifting through space. War Admiral Vextar's flagship was one of the first to die. As emergency power failed and the bridge lights went dark, his last transmission spoke of impossible weapons and demons wearing human faces. At the center of the expanding energy pulse, the USS Blackstar somehow survived. The ship's experimental radiation shielding, combined with its position in the eye of the quantum storm, protected it from the worst effects of the explosion. But the protection came at a cost. Half the crew was dead from radiation exposure, and most of the ship's systems were failing. Captain Lee, her skin burned by radiation she had absorbed while maintaining her position on the bridge, looked around at her surviving officers. Damage report, she said weakly. 49 enemy ships destroyed, Park Min-ho reported. His voice was hoarse, and blood trickled from his nose. All alien vessels are showing zero power and life signs. Our status? Chief Engineer Song, barely conscious at her station, managed to whisper. 412 crew members still alive. Reactor containment restored, but we're running on emergency power. Hull integrity at 60%. Lee nodded slowly. The cost had been terrible. But they had achieved something unprecedented in galactic history. A single, human ship had destroyed an entire alien fleet. Yang, she said to her communications officer, send a message to Earth Defense Command. Tell them the path to Earth is clear, but they need to prepare. The aliens will send more ships when they don't hear from this fleet. Yes, Captain, Yang replied, though his hands shook as he operated his controls. Lee closed her eyes for a moment, feeling the radiation sickness spreading through her body. She probably had hours to live, maybe less. But that was enough time to record one final message. Computer, begin personal log. This is Captain Lee So-young. Final report from USS Blackstar. As she spoke, The damaged ship began its long journey back to human space, carrying news of a victory that would change the galaxy forever. The emergency beacon from the USS Blackstar reached Earth Defense Command 43 hours after the battle. Admiral Kim Tae-won read the initial report 3 times before he could believe what he was seeing. "One ship," he said aloud to his staff. "One ship destroyed an entire Zephyrian invasion fleet." "Sir," his aide, Captain Park Jung-ho, said carefully, "the report claims they eliminated 49 enemy vessels using modified mining equipment and an overloaded reactor. Get me a rescue fleet immediately. I want every available medical ship headed for the Blackstar's position." The rescue fleet was led by Captain Yoon Seo-jun of the hospital ship UES Mercy. When his ships reached the battle site, they found a debris field stretching across several thousand kilometers. 49 alien vessels floated dead in space, their hulls cracked open by radiation, and their crews long since expired. At the center of the destruction, the USS Blackstar drifted slowly through space. Its black hull was scarred and burned, with entire sections missing or melted. But the ship was still intact, still broadcasting its emergency beacon. "This is Captain Yoon to USS Blackstar." Yoon transmitted. "We're here to assist. What is your status?" The reply came from Lieutenant Park Min-ho, his voice weak but clear. "She's been exposed to lethal radiation levels, but she refuses medical treatment until she can brief you on what happened here. Bring her aboard immediately." Captain Lee So-young was carried to the medical bay of the Mercy on a stretcher, her body ravaged by radiation poisoning. Her skin was burned and her hair was falling out, but her eyes were still sharp and determined. "Admiral Kim needs to know," she told Captain Yoon weakly. "The aliens aren't just raiders. They're systematically destroying every species that might threaten them. Earth has maybe 6 months before they send a larger fleet. Captain, you need treatment." "I need to finish my report." Lee's hand gripped Yoon's arm with surprising strength. "We learned something important in this battle. The aliens fight like every other species we've encountered. They've never faced an enemy that evolved the way humans did." Dr. Sarah Chen, the ship's chief medical officer, was running scans on Lee's condition. The readings were grim. "Captain, I'm sorry, but the radiation exposure is too severe. I might be able to give you a few more hours, but a few hours is enough." Lee turned back to Yoon. "The tactical data is in the Blackstar's computer core. Everything we learned about alien ship design, their weapons, their combat doctrine, it's all there." Over the next 3 hours, Captain Lee dictated a detailed report that would become known as the Blackstar Protocols. She described how human weapons, designed for industrial use, could penetrate alien defenses that were calibrated for energy-based warfare. She explained how human willingness to accept casualties gave them tactical advantages that other species couldn't match. "They fight to preserve their ships and minimize losses," Lee explained. "We fight to complete the mission regardless of cost. That's our advantage." When Lee finally died, her body was transported back to Earth with full military honors. But her tactical data was already spreading through human military networks. 3 days after the rescue fleet returned to Earth, the Galactic Council sent representatives to meet with human leaders. The council chamber had never hosted a human delegation before. Ambassador Sarah Kim stood before the assembled alien representatives, her uniform bearing the insignia of the United Earth Defense Force. Behind her, Admiral Kim Tae-won carried a datapad containing Captain Lee's final report. "Honored representatives," Ambassador Kim began, "we appreciate the Council's invitation to discuss recent events in the Kepler system." Council member Altara, whose blue skin seemed even paler than usual, spoke first. "Ambassador Kim, our investigation teams have confirmed what seems impossible. A single human vessel destroyed an entire Zephyrian battle fleet." "That is correct." "How?" Admiral Kethvar demanded. "Our combined fleets lost thousands of ships to the Zephyrians. How did one primitive human vessel succeed where we failed?" Ambassador Kim remained calm despite the insult. With respect, Admiral, human vessels are not primitive. They're simply designed according to different principles. End quote. End quote. She activated a holographic display showing the Blackstar's weapon systems. Our ship used magnetic accelerators to fire solid projectiles at 15% of light speed. Your energy shields are ineffective against kinetic weapons moving at those velocities. The alien representatives studied the display with growing amazement. The concept of using industrial equipment as weapons was foreign to species that had developed dedicated military technologies. But the energy requirements, protested Science Advisor Velton. Accelerating matter to those speeds should require massive power systems. It does, Admiral Kim replied, which is why we use quantum fusion reactors that most species consider dangerously unstable. Dangerously unstable. Council member Altara repeated. You mean your ships are powered by reactors that could explode at any moment? Yes. But that instability becomes an advantage when you can control it. Admiral Kim activated another display showing the final moments of the battle. Captain Lee deliberately overloaded her reactors to create a directed energy pulse. The explosion destroyed every enemy ship within 1 light minute of her position. The council chamber fell silent. The idea of deliberately destroying your own reactor as a weapon was so alien to their thinking that they struggled to comprehend it. Your captain committed suicide to win a battle, Admiral Kethvar said finally. Captain Lee sacrificed herself to save Earth and its colonies. Admiral Kim corrected. There's a difference. During the following weeks, news of the Blackstar's victory spread across the galaxy. Species that had lost entire fleets to the Zephyrians began to reconsider their assessment of humanity. The Zephyrian Empire's response was swift and predictable. High Command ordered 3 full invasion fleets to human space, carrying nearly 6,000 ships. They intended to obliterate Earth before human tactics could spread to other species. But Earth was no longer the peaceful world that the aliens expected to find. Captain Lee's sacrifice had given humanity something more valuable than a military victory. It had given them time to prepare. Admiral Kim Tae-won stood in the command center of the newly constructed Earth Defense Station, watching construction reports scroll across his screens. 50 new ships were under construction in orbital shipyards, each one based on the Blackstar's design, but incorporating lessons learned from the battle. Admiral, his aide reported, the first Blackstar-class vessels will be ready for service in 3 months. The UES Retribution is already conducting space trials. Good. What about crew training? Good. 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 All personnel are studying the Blackstar protocols. We've integrated Captain Lee's tactical doctrine into standard combat training. Admiral Kim nodded. The Blackstar protocols emphasized acceptable losses, psychological warfare, and the use of industrial equipment as military hardware. They were based on a simple principle that Captain Lee had discovered. When fighting a superior enemy, you don't try to match their strengths. You force them to fight according to your rules. Sir, the communications officer called out. We're receiving a transmission from the Zephyrian Empire. They're demanding our surrender. Put it through. The holographic display activated, showing the reptilian features of Supreme War Admiral Gorthak. Humans of Earth, he began. Your destruction of our advance fleet was a clever trick, but it will not save you. 3 invasion fleets are approaching your system. Surrender now, and we will grant you quick deaths. Admiral Kim stepped forward. This is Admiral Kim Tae-won, commanding Earth Defense Force. We have received your message and would like to offer a response. Speak quickly, human. You have little time left. Kim smiled coldly. Our response is this. Come and take it. The transmission ended, leaving the command center in silence. Outside the viewports, Earth's orbital shipyards continued their work, building the fleet that would carry humanity's answer to the stars. The legend of the USS Blackstar was no longer just a story of one ship's sacrifice. It had become the foundation of human military doctrine. Soon, the galaxy would learn what happened when you attacked a species that had spent 10,000 years learning how to kill or be killed. 1 year after the USS Blackstar's sacrifice, Captain Park Min-ho stood on the bridge of the UES Retribution, watching 3 massive Zephyrian invasion fleets approach Earth's solar system. The alien armada consisted of nearly 6,000 ships, including super dreadnoughts the size of small moons. Contact report. His tactical officer, Lieutenant Jung Yu-jin, announced. Enemy fleets dropping out of hyperspace at the edge of the system. Estimated arrival time at Earth: 18 hours. Park nodded calmly. He was one of only 47 survivors from the original Blackstar crew, and the radiation scars on his face served as a permanent reminder of that terrible battle. Signal the fleet. All ships assume attack formation. The human response fleet was much smaller than the approaching Zephyrian armada. Only 53 vessels, each one built according to the specifications discovered during Captain Lee's final battle. But every ship was crewed by personnel who had studied the Blackstar protocols until they could recite them from memory. Sir, Communications Officer Kim Dae-jung reported, "We're receiving a transmission from the enemy flagship." Put it through. Supreme War Admiral Gorthok appeared on the main view screen, his reptilian features twisted with confidence. Human fleet, you are outnumbered more than 100 to 1. Your single victory was an accident that will not be repeated. Surrender now. Park's response was broadcast on all frequencies, including those monitored by the Galactic Council. This is Captain Park Min-ho, commanding the UES Retribution. 1 year ago, you murdered 200,000 human civilians. Today, you come to finish what you started. We have a message for you from Captain Lee So-young. Your dead captain cannot help you now, Gorthok sneered. Her message is simple. Park continued. Humanity doesn't surrender. We evolve. The human fleet began moving toward the massive alien armada at maximum acceleration. To observers monitoring the battle, it looked like a suicide charge. 53 ships attacking 6,000 seemed like madness. But the humans had learned from Captain Lee's sacrifice. They understood that superior numbers meant nothing if you could control the terms of engagement. All ships, implement Blackstar Protocol 7, Park commanded. Throughout the human fleet, crews began actions that would have horrified any civilized military force. Ships vented atmosphere to space to reduce mass and increase acceleration. Reactor safeties were disabled to provide maximum power output. Crew quarters were converted into ammunition storage. Chief Engineer Lee Hee-jung, who had served under Song Hee-jin on the original Blackstar, reported from her station. All ships confirm implementation of Protocol 7. We're now operating at 115% of design specifications. Excellent. Jung, what's our weapons status? All railguns loaded with tungsten penetrator rounds. Nuclear mines armed and ready for deployment. Industrial mining charges converted to proximity weapons. The Zephyrian fleet watched in confusion as the human ships approached in formation. Supreme War Admiral Gorthok had expected them to scatter and try to avoid battle. Instead, they were charging directly into his massive armada. Their tactics make no sense, complained Fleet Admiral Vex Koth. They should be trying to delay us, not engaging in direct combat. Perhaps they've gone insane with fear, Gorthok suggested. No matter. We'll destroy them quickly and continue to Earth. The first exchange of fire came when the fleets were still light minutes apart. Zephyrian plasma cannons and particle beams lashed out at the approaching human ships, but found empty space. The human vessels were using evasive patterns that seemed random, but were actually calculated to avoid predictable weapon targeting. When the human ships finally opened fire, the results shocked the alien fleet. Railgun rounds, fired at relativistic speeds, tore through Zephyrian shields, as if they didn't exist. The tungsten penetrators punched through alien hulls and continued out the other side, causing explosive decompression and structural failure. "How are they penetrating our shields?" demanded Admiral Zergith, as his ship shook under railgun impact. "Unknown, sir. Their projectiles are moving too fast for our defensive systems to track or intercept." The human fleet split into smaller groups, each one targeting a different section of the alien armada. Instead of trying to fight the entire enemy force at once, they were using mobility and superior firepower to engage smaller groups of ships at overwhelming odds. Captain Park watched the tactical display as his ships tore through the alien formation. Status report on all vessels. UES Vengeance reports successful engagement with enemy cruiser squadron. All targets destroyed. UES Defiance has eliminated 2 alien destroyer groups. UES Blackstar's Fury is engaging enemy dreadnoughts. The ship named after the original Blackstar was commanded by Captain Song Ji-won, daughter of the chief engineer who had died in the first battle. Her vessel carried the most advanced weapons in the human fleet, including experimental quantum torpedoes that could phase through energy shields. "Captain Park," Song transmitted, requesting permission to implement Protocol Omega. Protocol Omega was the most dangerous tactic in the Blackstar manual. It required a ship to deliberately enter the center of an enemy formation and detonate its reactor core, creating a localized space-time distortion that would destroy everything within several light seconds. "Permission granted," Park replied without hesitation. "All ships, clear blast radius around Blackstar's Fury." Song's ship accelerated toward the largest concentration of Zephyrian super dreadnoughts. As plasma fire and particle beams converged on her vessel, she began the reactor overload sequence that Captain Lee had pioneered. For the Blackstar, Song transmitted as her ship disappeared into a quantum fireball that consumed 12 alien super dreadnoughts. Supreme War Admiral Gorthak watched in horror as his supposedly invincible fleet was systematically destroyed by an enemy force 100 times smaller. The humans were fighting with a ruthlessness that defied comprehension. "They're destroying their own ships to damage ours," he reported to Zephyrian High Command. "They fight like demons possessed." "All fleets, withdraw to safe distance," High Command ordered. "Regroup and assess the situation." But there was no safe distance. The human ships pursued the retreating Zephyrian fleet, using their superior acceleration to catch isolated vessels and destroy them with concentrated firepower. The nuclear mines they had deployed throughout the battle space continued to claim victims as alien ships fled in panic. After 12 hours of running battle, Supreme War Admiral Gorthak found himself with only 800 ships remaining from his original force of 6,000. The humans had lost 23 vessels, but had inflicted catastrophic damage on the supposedly superior alien fleet. "This is impossible," Gorthak transmitted on all frequencies. "How can such a primitive species fight so effectively?" Captain Park's response was heard across the galaxy, broadcast by ships from dozens of species who had come to observe the battle. "We learned warfare on a world that tried to kill us every single day for millions of years. We survived by becoming the most dangerous predators in existence. You made the mistake of threatening our families." The remaining Zephyrian ships jumped to hyperspace, fleeing human territory in disorder. The invasion that was supposed to eliminate humanity had been turned into a devastating defeat. News of the battle spread throughout the galaxy within days. Species that had cowered before Zephyrian fleets began to reconsider their options. The humans had proven that the seemingly invincible aliens could be beaten. On Earth, Admiral Kim Tae-won received surrender requests from 17 different Zephyrian worlds within a month. The empire that had terrorized the galaxy for centuries was collapsing as subject species rose in rebellion. But the most important result was the change in how other species viewed humanity. No longer were humans considered primitive newcomers to galactic civilization. They were recognized as the most dangerous military force in known space. Captain Park Min-ho stood in the memorial hall aboard the UES Retribution, studying the wall dedicated to Captain Lee So-young and the crew of the original USS Blackstar. Their sacrifice had changed the course of galactic history. "Captain," Lieutenant Young called from the bridge, We're receiving a transmission from the Galactic Council. They're requesting a formal alliance with Earth. Tell them we'll consider it, Park replied. But make sure they understand our terms. Any species that threatens human civilians will face the consequences. As he spoke, construction reports showed 50 new Blackstar-class vessels under construction. Each ship would carry the name of a crew member who had died in the original battle, and each would be crewed by personnel trained in the brutal efficiency that Captain Lee had discovered. The galaxy had learned a hard lesson about underestimating humanity. The USS Blackstar's legacy lived on in every human warship that carried her name and her mission. To make sure that no enemy survived to threaten Earth again. In the depths of space, alien children were already learning new stories. Stories about the black ships that appeared when humans were threatened. Stories about a species that had learned warfare on a world where everything tried to kill you. The legend of the USS Blackstar had become the foundation of humanity's reputation among the stars. And as any alien military commander would tell you, it was better to avoid fighting humans altogether than to face the consequences of their anger. Captain Lee So-young's final words had become the motto inscribed on every human warship. Humanity doesn't surrender. We evolve.